Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Clicks to Customers podcast. I am John Horn, your host and CEO of StubGroup, and today we're joined by Michael, or Buzz, Buzinski. Buzz, thanks so much for coming on.
Than's for having me. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. We're recording this in the middle of summer in Texas, so if you see any sweat dripping down my cheeks here, that's why. But I am excited to chat marketing with you today and really focusing on the B2B side of things. So rather than me giving a long intro about who you are, why don't you tell the audience who is Buzz, and it's a little bit of the background of how you got to what you're doing today.
Sure. As my wife says, I am what is it called? Oh, now I can't even think of the word, so it doesn't matter. I am a marketer of 30 years. I've been in business for myself for 20 years, a prior Air Force flyer on a plane called AWACS for 10 years. So I've done a little bit of everything. Renaissance man, as my wife says. But we, for the last 20 years, we've been working with the small to medium-sized businesses, lower mid-market, specifically B2B, service-based businesses. So we're thinking business consultants, technology consulting, advisory, financial services, and professional services. Yeah. And we're just all about making sure that our strategy is sound for our clients before they start diving into the random acts of marketing and, just jumping at every little shiny new object that seems to be coming every other week and with AI every week, seemingly every day.
That is so true. I love that phrase, random acts of marketing. I think
I came up with it, but then I found out there's somebody who's actually trademarked it technically.
Oh, really?
I'm like, how do you trademark a saying? I mean, it's been around for a very long time, but somebody, a marketer, decided they were going to trademark it. So that's kind of funny, but yeah, it is what it is. But yes, scattered and random is, where we're all at. We all start there because that's what we know when we first start our business. Unfortunately, what gets us into the 7 and 8 figure businesses does not get us to the next echelon. And at some point we have to organize. So I call it synthesize, simplify, and systemize, and make sure that, we're bringing everything down to the lowest common denominator and then building back up from there versus trying to make a scattered bowl of spaghetti organized.
I know part of that kind of focusing of the attention there, I know you have some frameworks you were mentioning to me that you've developed that you walk your clients through. So I'd love to spend some time digging into how you think about those things. What are your frameworks, and maybe get into the meat of that a little bit.
Sure. So about 7 years ago, when we started seeing a lot of complexity happening in automation, the birth of AI has definitely made things more complicated than they have actually simplified things. And that could be a whole nother conversation right there. But as we're really pivoting into bringing things down to the lowest common denominator, we're finding that I wrote my first book called The Rule of 26. And I found out that, you've got these website marketers out there and big CRMs that will, like HubSpot, you can track like 128 different KPIs. And I'm like, who wants to track 120 KPIs? So I realized I took a really hard look at this when everybody was transitioning during COVID to online marketing. We had all these brick and mortars that never had to do it before because they hung their shingle and they got in the right place at the right time on the right street and all that good stuff. And now they had to figure it out for themselves. And I couldn't serve all of those people at once. And I couldn't afford to serve the people who don't have any money because COVID was squeezing so hard. So I did all the math for everybody, and I figured out that traffic, website conversions, and average revenue per client are the only 3 KPIs that truly directly move the revenue needle. And with that came the Rule of 26. And as that became very popular and people noticed that as, hey, this is not a slogan, this is actually math. Like literally, I've had accountants like, this guy's it's just another marketer, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah. So then I'm like, so how can we bring 3 KPIs? How do we feed each of these 3 KPIs directly so that we can even expedite the process even further? And we found out that when I was looking at my own business, I had this like choose your own adventure type of website. It's still up right now for the next a few weeks if you're listening to this before October 1st of 2026. As we move from a 17-page website to a 5-page website, right? And we had multiple places to more than 18 ways to enter our ecosystem. And so when we started looking at ourselves and going, wow, we really need to start pushing that down. We started looking at our other clients and our existing clients. We're like, we're doing the same. We're allowing them to do the same thing. And so eventually we basically reverse engineered everything to, if you can get everybody to come through one gate into your ecosystem. And I liken it to those shoebox cameras. You ever seen one of those? Do you remember those as a kid? Real quick. So shoebox camera works like this. You put a pinhole in one side, and then you put photo paper in the back side. You cover it up, take it outside, let the light shine through the pinhole for a few minutes, and then you bring it in and you develop the photosensitive paper, and voila, you have the entire picture of the landscape of what your box was pointed at through that one pinhole, right? Yeah. And in marketing and in business, we want to sell all the things to all of the people all of the time, right? Like, well, it depends. What are you in the mood for? Well, what do you do? Well, what do you need me to do? Those types of things, right? And even when we say we've niched and we've done, and we've brought it down to, we only have these 3 products and we productize our services, and yet they have a whole shelf full of products. Right. And they're just waiting to figure out which one they're going to pull out and put it in front of their prospects. Right. And so I'm like, how can we get the psychology and the mindset of like, hey, there is a way for you to speed up your sales process, speed up your expansion, and increase your retention by simplifying your offer. Not reducing what you have to offer, but simplifying how people get in through that pinhole. And so we call it the single point of entry. Sure, the marketers have called it other things, and I'm sure I'm not the one that invented that thought, right? They're like, yeah, this is right here. But what we did is created what we call the focus to fit framework, and that focus is actually an acronym to fix one clearly urgent struggle. Because people are like, well, what is the offer that we need to bring this down to one thing, right? And it's like, it's the biggest problem your perfectly profitable prospects are looking to solve. Because as B2B service-based businesses, that's the only reason we exist, is to solve other businesses' problems. So if we can find out where in their business life cycle you are best fit to be interjected to help them get where they want to go, and then find out what the biggest pain point at that moment in their life cycle is, you will now put yourself in the winning lane of their entire growth trajectory for whatever you do. Because when we solve one problem, all we're doing is creating the next problem, which is a little bit bigger. Because there is no billion-dollar company that all of a sudden said, we have no problems. And I don't care what part of business you're talking about. Right? It could be finance, sales, marketing, operations, you name it, you're going to have bigger problems. So all of us that serve other businesses, we need to figure out what that is. Okay. And then on the flip side is that we need to make sure that we put this into a pretty box. Yeah. We need to what we call productize a service. That's not a new term, but it's an underused term. And I think misused, because I think that some people is like, well, I'm an accountant. I productize my service by offering accounting maintenance. That's productized because I put a retainer on it and there's one flat rate. And everything comes in it. And I was like, no. We're talking about productization in that it has a instance. It has a shelf life. Yeah. To put it on a shelf, it must have a shelf life, right? So if we can do something as simple as a diagnostic. So say you are a CPA and you're like, hey, how do I get in? How do I get people in there? Well, how do you know what type of work you need to do for that new client until you've done what you do with all your new clients and do the diagnostic and clean up the books, right? Well, how much work is it going to take to clean up the books? Well, you don't know until you do this diagnostic, right? So if you can package your diagnostic in a way that the prospect can go, oh, I need that. And you're going to create a quick win there. And guess what? The cleanup can come right after that. So now we're sequencing what we always do, but we're packaging the first step so that they understand what they're buying so that you can step them through the rest of it. Because a lot of us sell a lot of blue sky and we talk about all the things that can happen and the outcomes and blah, 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 but they don't know what they're buying. And if you don't know what you're buying, it's really hard to set reasonable expectations. And so you as the service provider are setting yourself up for failure because you're going to have unhappy clients that you had good wins for, but they didn't understand the sequence in which those wins were going to come. Mm-hmm. And so then that confusion creates unsettledness. That unsettledness creates that like, I'm not in the right place, even though all the right things are happening around you.
I love this. I'd love to get really tactical here. So I'm gonna
Sure.
maybe try and get some free consulting from you as we do this. Let's use StubGroup as an example, and then I'm really curious to hear how you think of some of the things that we do, and maybe even applying your framework a little bit to us for the benefit of those who are listening and watching. So StubGroup, we're a digital marketing agency. We provide services like Google Ads management, SEO, email marketing, so forth. We also often first meet a lot of our clients because they have policy issues with Google Ads. Let's say their account is suspended, and we build up some unique experience in that space of helping fix suspensions, get those businesses back online with Google, and then hopefully get to manage their advertising moving forward as well. So as you apply the framework to a business like ours, what are maybe some of the questions you would dig into, or things you dig into as try and
Sure. So now, when we're talking about these people who are in trouble, are these what we call profitable prospects, or are these people who have done it on themselves and have never paid for somebody else to do it, and therefore going to be price resistance regardless of the price?
So there's a wide range of businesses that reach out. Some are definitely very much in that kind of DIY, I have no money space, but there are many businesses who are, well-established businesses. They have an agency themselves, or they're managing things in-house currently. They've run into this suspension. No one knows how to fix it, and so they come to us trying to find that expert solution.
Right. So, and you feel that you've seen this enough times in the market that this is a self-perpetuating a problem that will be here as long as there's PPC or Meta ads and Instagram and TikTok accounts to break, is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Last year, Google suspended, I think, 39 million ad accounts, and that was like a 300% increase year over year.
Awesome. Okay. So this is great because now you become the emergency room.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are now doing ad account triage. Okay. So picture this. You have your ads out there and you say the one thing that's on their mind. Can't get your account unlocked. Ads not running because you have no access. Come get our StubGroup triage.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you can then create a flat rate to do it. Now, because there's a lot of folks who are like, well, it depends on what happens. It depends on da-da-da-da. So if you break the cycle of what your competitors are doing, which is basically charging by the hour to fix it, because just like mechanic would do, it should take about 5 hours for me to figure it out. And then it takes 10.
Right.
What if you came and said, hey, we'll do triage and we'll do it flat rate for you. So you have no surprises and we'll get you back on your feet. Absolutely. And then the follow-up to that is, and then we're going to do a diagnostic on your campaign. If they don't agree to the diagnostic on the campaign, you've now disqualified them. Because you don't want to, you want to make sure that your first productization is something that is a win-win. Okay. So I have I'm going to use a client as an example. So I have a fractional CFO. Okay. He's been around for 4 years. We took him from 3 to 13 accounts. Now, fractional CFO for $30 million, $50 million construction companies is really hard. Okay. So, and he went from billing $1,500 to $5,000 a month. So we applied the rule of 26 for him, right? But now we're like, okay, he has this $50,000 diagnostic that he was trying to sell, and he sold a couple of them. And I said, what if you could sell it for $10,000 and then guarantee you'll show them at least $50,000 of money they're bleeding just this year? That's a productized service. right? You always want to make sure that you're not giving away the farm, but you also want to hedge. Do you know what his average savings when he does a diagnostic is?
No idea.
$750,000.
Oh, man.
Okay. Now he could say that,
Right.
right? But what's the problem with that? Guess what the problem of saying, hey, $10,000 and I'll show you $750,000 savings. What's the risk I'm taking there as the service provider?
So, I mean, from a perception standpoint, I'd say that it seems unrealistic.
That's
I know
one.
what
That's
you're
good.
getting at. And then the second
Right.
would be what you're charging is very little relative to the amount of savings that you're bringing to the company.
Must be a scam, right?
Exactly.
I also look at it as that you are creating too much value. And so the gap becomes unperceivable. And then that makes you uneasy. You're talking about money. You're looking at my money. What's the scam? Too good to be true? Probably is. But if I just say, hey, I'll 5X your investment or I'll refund your money, right? So now let's bring that back to you. Now, because he knows once he does that and he over delivers and shows them in the numbers that they're going to spend the $30,000 for the cleanup. Okay. So if you looked at your triage and found out, okay, once we get them back online, what's their next problem? They're probably not running profitable campaigns, right?
Right. Often not. Yeah.
Right. And you're probably batting 900 and 950, 95% of the time. I bet you are improving those within probably the first 30 to 60 days
Yeah.
of an ongoing campaign that's already there. Right.
Absolutely.
So you start seeing where that's going. See how you can set yourself up to be like, hey, listen, we'll do the triage, okay, for a flat rate, which is going to include this audit. The audit opens the door for you to say, hey, we see this, and this wrong. You're up and running. You're back on the road, but you ain't running on all cylinders. Your gas mileage is going to be poor until you fix this. Now, we just got you out of the hot water. Would you like us to get you into the hot tub? So I'm solving for two problems. One, price. I am now dating my client to see if they're a pain in the butt to work with.
Yes.
Right? Because if they are, and you do the diagnostic, you're like, here, this is what you need to do. And you are more suited to talk with those people over there. Or, hey, good luck. Because one of the frameworks that we talk about is the P3P, your perfectly profitable prospect profile, which is an ICP, your ideal client profile, which everybody, they do the, your personality profile, all that stuff, right? That's great. That's going to get you. But the next level is taking your ICP and now matching it with a core value fit, a culture fit, a delivery fit, and a profit fit. Do they believe in a lot of the core values that you believe in? If so, then trust can be high. Is their culture the same as yours? Do you guys do business similarly as far as, are they slow and calculated and you're agile? What's that going to do? Lots of friction. You're trying to go really fast, and they're like, "Oh no, stop!" They're like, "Why are you holding us back? We can win for you." They're like, it's just a culture clash, and you create that friction. Yeah. There goes all your profitability, all your trust erodes, all that stuff, and then they walk away mad because you guys couldn't get on the same frequency. Yeah. We have delivery fit. Are they ready to handle the success you're about to deliver? Okay, what happens when you sit there and go, yeah, you're spending $10,000 on this PPC account right here. I see we could probably double your leads for the same price. And then you forget, oh, wow, it's still a founder-led sales team. And he doesn't have enough time to take all those calls.
Right.
Profit fit. Are they going to be needy? Are they going to be a PITA? Are you going to be able to deliver and get those wins profitably? If all four of those fit, then you can let those people in. And what we just described for you with the triage tagged on with a campaign diagnostic of sorts, or an audit, or whatever you want to call it, right? Give it a nice name that people can go, okay, I get what you're selling me here. I got it. Yeah. Don't give it a widget name. Don't give it a marketing jargon name, right? And anybody listening, an industry jargon name does not work. Okay. Like we say marketing diagnostic. Most people understand the word diagnostic, and if they don't, they're probably not a culture fit for us because they just don't use big enough words. It's not that it's just a thing, right? Like we like learned people. But our clients are usually learned. They either have certifications, 20 years experience, they got education, right? Yeah. We're not trying to help a fledgling 20 something get their business off the road. We're not a startup company. That's not who we are, right? Yeah. So that's just part of our culture, right? Yeah. Sidebar there. So with that said, if you can get, if you get that paired up and you become the king of that category, you are the ad campaign triage gurus, right?
Right.
Now you have one thing to advertise. Now, earlier you told me you do PPC, you do SEO, you do meta, you do this, you do that. You probably build websites and do social media management and blah, 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 right? And that's great. Most agencies do, which makes you just a commoditized service.
Sure.
But when you become the triage king, and there's 39 million accounts you said that got frozen, and you got, maybe 1/10 of 1% of that, you probably have more business than you could handle right now, right?
Yes.
And how hard is it to market, you're a marketer, how hard is it to advertise for one problem that you solve versus 10 problems you solve?
It's a lot easier to go after the
one.
A
lot easier, right? So if you guys, you are getting free advice here. But I want to show people like how powerful that is.
Yeah.
Right? When people come to me, we do a marketing diagnostic where we take a look at all of your marketing and your sales because they have to be intertwined, right? Yeah. And we understand that to create a revenue engine, you have to have marketing and sales working together, right? And so when they say, well, what should we do next? I don't know. I haven't looked under the hood.
Right.
Like it's like going to the doctor and say, cure me. Well, what do you have? I think I have a cold. How do you know? I don't know. I got stuffy nose. Well, stuffy nose is a symptom of a lot of things. So until we do the diagnostics, take some blood work, I don't know if you have a cold or the flu or maybe COVID.
Right.
And there's 3 different ways to treat each of those, even though there's a lot of related issues that come with that, right? Same thing with marketing and sales, right? When you get into where you're working with us, in that high 6 figures, low 7 figures, and up to about 20 million is when usually people are coming to us, then they all have about the same symptoms, but there's 3 big problems they have, one of 3, and each of them have a different cure. When you do the triage, you have no idea what you're getting into, but it's only a handful of things is going to solve it. So that's where you can figure out what the value of that is, right? And then you can build in your audit to be in with it, because guess what? Nobody asks the question, how much is it going to cost when we walk into an ER?
Right.
You're doing triage.
Yep. You need the bleeding stop.
So you don't have to lose money on the audit to thinking you're going to get the money. If they don't hire you, you've done them the service and you got paid to do it. Nobody should lose money to get business.
Right.
You should never be serving anybody without getting paid what you're worth. Now, you might decide you're going to discount it. If you break even and that's your marketing dollars is wrapped up in the profit you lost, that's fine. I mean, we all do that. And not everybody wins with their marketing, so you're always going to have that gamble, right? But wouldn't it be better if you're always making your margins of the people you can help the most?
Absolutely. How often would you say you see when people don't meet that PPP? They're not in that place. Do you recommend businesses spend time kind of nurturing, getting to the place eventually down the road where they do hopefully get to that place? Or is it more of a, hey, don't waste time on that, send them somewhere else, give them some ideas and let them go and focus on those people who right now are the right fit for you?
For every misfit client that you bring into your company, you cost your company reputation, profit, churn in your employees, because you're creating PITAs. If they don't fit, you must get them out. Right. Okay. And if you have a list of people you can hand them to, and maybe you even have reciprocal finder's fees for that. Hey, we're focused on the people who are in triage right now.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to us for XYZ and it doesn't fit our model, then I want to hand it off. Now, that's not to say that, hey, if they come to you because they heard you're the triage kings and you do these great things and the referrals, and then you look at them and you qualify them and you say, yeah, they fit our P3P, we'll let them in. But if they don't meet your P3P, I don't care what they're asking you to do. I don't care how much they're paying you. You are losing bandwidth of your team. You're losing reputation because they'll never be happy because you're going to not get along in the long run.
Right.
I've been in business for 20 years. I am a people pleaser. It is hard for me to say no when people are in need. Yeah. It really is hard. People, and I'm a pretty shrewd businessman, but if somebody's hurting, I forget all of that stuff really fast. Mm-hmm. Right? It's one of the things that my wife says, you can never say no to somebody who's in help, right? But in business, it's something I have to fight, right? That's why I got into business. Originally, it was a recording studio because I had spent 15 years as a part-time professional musician and had horrible experiences in recording studios. So I said, I'm gonna help all the other musicians out there and create a studio where we don't get mistreated. Of course, surviving off of starving musicians is a horrible business plan. Do not do that. Okay, so back to like what has actually paid the bills for 20 years. It's something that took me 13 years to figure out. And you will put yourself in entrepreneurial poverty until you don't. Right? You have to say no to say yes. Everything you say no to opens the door for more yeses.
I think that goes hand in hand with, what do they say? No good deed goes unpunished. You do that good deed, you're like, okay, I'm going to make this exception. I'm going to help you out of the kindness of my heart or whatever. Yep. And then, of course, that's the one where it blows up and they leave the bad review or they're like, oh, you guys are terrible. It's like, I'm just trying to help you. Like, I didn't even want to take you to begin with.
And a lot of times it comes down to they're just bad. I mean, I've had clients try to take my employees, right? Because they don't have the same core values, right? I let them in. I didn't know. I didn't think that. Not all business is good business. Yeah. If you looked at your client list right now, anybody listening or watching to this, and you looked at your bottom dollar spender, unless it's a personal friend and somehow they didn't do this to you, I bet you they're the ones that get the most time per dollar spent. Not that they get the most time, but for every dollar they spend, they get more value than the people who are at the top of your list.
Yeah. The
people who pay a premium respect what they're paying for. They expect results. They expect professionalism. They expect accountability. Yep. And when they do that, that means they're hands off. When they're the bottom feeders, plate lickers, if you will, they're trying to get every crumb off that plate, and they'll pick it up off the floor if they have to. Yep. And that floor is your dignity, your profitability, your peace of mind, and your employees' happiness. You choose. Which one do you want?
It's so true. I mean, we absolutely see this in our own business. We have a very wide variety of budget size we work with. And, the business spending $1,000 per month, you're probably going to hear a lot more from them often than the business spending $50,000 a month where we're trying to get a hold of them. Like, hey, can we please have a call? We want to ask you how things are going. And, part of that also, part of it, I think, like you said, has to do with different expectation and perspective. Part of it is that business that is spending $1,000 per month, that is their everything. Like, and they are so invested, even though it's a relatively small amount of money compared to other things. Like, they are spending all their time, up at night thinking about, okay, we spent $50 today. What happened from that? Versus the more established business that has just more going on and more opportunities. And they're like, okay, we're trusting this agency to steward the $10,000 we spent today. And we see that all the time.
Here's a trick. Yeah. Here's a trick for you. You want to know whether or not somebody is desperate or not?
Yeah.
Tell them how much money they will lose before they start making money.
That's a good.
So I was on a call today with somebody who was not qualified to work with me, right? But they're very interested in working with us. And I said, okay, well, this is what it looks like. He asked, so what does it look like to work with Buzz? And so I told him. And for his particular situation, there was a lot of risk up front. And he wanted to get into some advertising. It's the first time he advertised a whole 9 yards. And I was like, okay, so you're going to, I told him before I told him anything about the process is just get this. You're going to spend $10,000 before you see a dollar back. Tell them what they're going to lose before they start gaining. You will now, when they say no, that means they're not ready.
Yeah.
They don't have that money to lose.
Yeah.
Right? And as marketers, as any provider, any service provider, there is inherent risk in business, not just in marketing, But you could be a CPA and say, hey, I can save you all this money. Yeah, but are they going to be in business next year because of something else?
Right.
Right? So you have to put in those guardrails to protect yourself from the wrong people expecting the wrong things from you and your company. Right? And so then I walked it through. And I made sense of why he could spend $10,000 before he gets an ROI, right? Because there's a lot of spin up. You know this. There's a lot of spin up to any campaign you have. And then you have the break-in and the testing and all that stuff before it gets traction. Every campaign needs that. Well, in any business, we have that ramp-up period. That ramp-up period is not a profitable period for your clients. Let alone a lot of us, because we try to eat that to try to soften the blow. And I'm telling people nowadays, because I'm living it now, don't eat it just because that's what it needs to get on board. Because if you eat it now and you create all that value for a discounted price, one, you just ate into all your profitability. You stressed out your employees, so you're creating retention issues right there. And now you have branded yourself as a discount service to your client.
Yeah. Thinking through some of the approaches. I'm taking mental notes here as I think through some of the approaches we've taken here. This is awesome. In terms of your P3P, who you want to work with, let's say people are listening to this, watching this right now, in the future after our recording here. And if they're saying, hey, this sounds fantastic, I want to talk with Buzz, I want to learn more, I want to take a look at my business, what's the best way for them to start that process?
Just go to buzzworthy.biz, and we make it very easy for you to reach out. We have something that we're launching now. So by the time you hear this will be available. There is a up to 45-minute free consultation that comes. We basically give that away for free. Usually it takes us 30 minutes, but we do a pre-diagnostic. We say, hey, where are you? Okay. So we're basically, think of us as the nurse before you get to the doctor, right? Taking the temperature, making sure you're not having a heart attack and all the other things. We maybe need to send you to triage, right?
I love the analogy.
Which then we will put you in a ER, right? That's the thing. And that's my thing, is that I don't mind giving back to that, because my mission is to create 17 million jobs by 2040 through the businesses that we serve. Did you know that every job that we create through growing businesses creates another 53 jobs around it?
That's wild. No, I did not know that stuff.
So our average client adds at least one employee for every $400,000 we add to their top line.
Interesting.
So we only have to do about 300,000 jobs directly to create 17 million. Why 17 million, you asked? Thank you for asking. Because there's a gap right now. There's a wage gap, right, between the have and have-nots. And that wage gap is where our middle class used to be. And that middle class used to be 51% of the population back in 1970. And I asked good old ChatGPT, how many jobs would that mean today to get back to that 51%? He said 17 million. So I did the math and I figured, how many jobs directly do I have to create the indirect jobs that would create the 17 million jobs?
And that's, you said about 300,000, right?
I think if I'm doing the math right, I'm doing math in public, but I think it's around 300,000. If you just multiply or divide 17 million by 53. Yes, that's what it is. You want the short math on that, but yeah, it's not insurmountable though.
No.
Because for every person I say no to, I always put them in good hands for somebody who should say yes to them and help them, right? Yeah. So I might not see it through my doors, but I'm on a mission to make sure that everybody goes through the right door.
I love it. Buzz, I love the mission, and also whether or not, dear listener, dear viewer, whether or not you're reaching out right now to Buzz, I definitely recommend checking out the Buzzworthy Marketing podcast. That's where Buzz and I first got to meet. He had me on there. Grateful for that opportunity. And yeah, lots of fantastic marketing conversation on there to check out. We'll have a link to that in the description, the show notes here, as well as Buzz to your website. And is there anything final that you would like to leave the audience with before we wrap up here?
If you think it is too daunting to get on the horn with somebody to talk about your marketing, I want to give you a free gift. Go to ruleof26.com. That's ruleof6.com. I'm giving away a free copy, signed copy of my book. We'll at least give you point you in the right direction, at least get your website aligned so that maybe it will be less daunting and you'll get yourself there. All I ask is that you pay for the shipping and handling. The book is absolutely free.
Awesome. Ruleof26.com. Figure out your focus, figure out your single point of entry. Buzz, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on.
Cheers.